Welcome to the Strategic Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Macias, and today we're joined with Jeremy. Jeremy is a seasoned entrepreneur and operator who knows firsthand what it takes to grow and run a successful business. Jeremy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Jeremy, we'll jump right in. Can you tell me a little bit about the early days and how you got started?
Really, it was my day job, and just kind of saw how the place I was working didn't seem to see what the demand properly was, and trying to meet that demand, it seemed like the best step forward would be to try it on my own. And I guess kind of it was all a blur. I mean, there's ups and downs of the roller coaster of a ride. I didn't really get a comfort level until we kind of hit certain metrics, saying, okay, these are the companies out there that are doing it already. We're now competing with them in revenue and sales numbers and staffing numbers. And that's where I really felt like, okay, it's a real business.
First thought on the industry that you chose, was it an idea that you kind of had right off the bat, or did you experiment with different ideas of opening up something in a different industry?
I mean, I'm called an entrepreneur because I've got a business, but at the end of the day, there wasn't really the entrepreneurial spirit. It was just an opportunity. You just keep your eyes open, your ears listening. An opportunity came by and I could turn it down. I'm not really looking. It was just in the industry I was. It seemed the opportunity I could resist to take.
Your background before you started the business, do you feel like it have give you kind of an upper hand in the industry, and that's kind of why you segued into it, or not related at all?
No question. It was my working in the industry and seeing how things were done and seeing how they could be better serviced that gave me the inspiration to take the path that I did and open up a business.
I think that's a good thing about construction. There's a lot of different ways to segue and so many moving parts, right? You can kind of niche into something very particular, and putting those systems in place can be very successful for some entrepreneur. Was there anything as far as system goals that you put in place early on that scaled the business?
I think prior to being in the current line of work, I was working for some very large companies, and they had systems in place. So when we went to this small industry that I'm currently serving, it's a bit of a niche, but I still understood the need for systems. So earlier on in the company, we were set up to have growth that could have far surpassed any possible outcome. I mean, we were at 40 people. We could have easily got systems in place, would have supported hundreds of people.
That makes sense. What was the biggest challenges once everything was set up? Was there something in particular that stood out to you that you didn't expect?
I think one of the challenges is that earlier on, prior to the business starting, we'd put a forecast together. And for the first few years, it met that forecast and we were excited. It was wonderful. And then we hit that pivotal point where it no longer matched our expectation. It wasn't linear growth. It kind of hit a plateau and we were challenged. It took us off guard. We had to understand where that came from. And it took a while to reset our line of thinking to allow us to continue to develop.
That can make, an entrepreneur, especially starting off a business, hit a plateau, and you have to pan out and look at the bigger picture and see, what are we doing wrong? Maybe what can we improve in? Or is there something that we kind of need to pivot and rethink strategy? I can imagine you had some sleepless nights.
Yeah. I mean, it was a difficulty, but we were able to kind of take that and develop from it. I mean, from that, we learned, hey, listen, we've got to evaluate everything all the time. There can be no stagnation. You're always in flux, moving, and it's allowed other opportunities to be captured that might have otherwise gone overlooked.
There may be a decision that you made. I'm sure there's a few, but is there one that kind of stood out to you that you made and it gave you different expectation than what you had in mind? It's hard to think about because it could be very particular, but anything that maybe stood out to you that you maybe won't forget?
I think one thing is that we thought earlier on that we could have a work-based model rather than a management-based model. We just assumed everybody would work towards a goal. And we've subsequently learned, no, we really have to invest in the proper management tools and people to allow us to progress.
Earlier on, was it your plan to be the operator within the business always? Were you going to be in a manager role from the get-go, or did you already have plans to be more hands-off? What was the plan kind of going into it, and did it change?
As an extension from what we were just talking about, I didn't realize the requirement of management structure. I just assumed I'd be a owner operator working day to day. It wasn't until we kind of progressed and certain obstacles came to us that I realized I need to step back to some degree from the daily operations and work on the growing the business, developing the business rather than just working for the business.
Find it difficult finding those key individuals to lead the rest of the employees. How was that process like?
It's been one of the largest obstacles we've had to come through is finding key people. There's a world now where there's just not a lineup of people outside your door looking to serve your needs and deliver. You've really got to work to find those good people. And it's not just one path. You've got to look everywhere you can all the time to see where key people come in. That's also shaped our company because rather than put a posting for a specific skill set, we are just going to put a general requirement out there, see what we get. And once we've got the good person, we're going to have to restructure everything to some degree around that to make it work.
That does make me think about having a system in place that allows you to train somebody in a step-by-step process that's easiest to understand, right? Very user-friendly, and kind of scale up or see how they progress from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, as part of our systems, we've got ways to allow people to grow. But then, like you said, it's not just the systems in place, it's actually finding these people and developing that relationship and see where they excel and determine how they're going to grow and in which ways they're going to grow. And it's been an obstacle. I think we've been lucky enough to find some good people and they've together, and we just always keep our eye out for new people and see how we can find ways to best train them. It goes back to we all learn in a certain way, but it's not just the way you learn. You've got to be respectful that other people learn other ways. And that's been a real obstacle because I'm a very hands-on doer type learner, but some people, they want the book. Some people want the show and tell. Some people want to watch a movie about it, whatever it is. You've got to really be cognizant of that because heaven forbid you put all this effort into training a person in a stuff that they have no ability to comprehend. It's just wasted effort.
I guess that does kind of lead to leadership, right? It's a skill that a lot of people aren't prepared for, and they slowly have to learn and realize that it is a skill. Being a people person, in my assumption, is one thing, but leadership is not just about being a people person. Right? You have to put your best foot forward and lead by example.
You've got to lead by example, but you've got to be in the back to kind of push people forward. You've got to be in the sides to kind of catch the stragglers. It's not just one position. You're constantly doing everything. It's, you make the analogy to herding cattle. It's not just one cowboy at the front and the cows follow him. You've got guys around the perimeter of the herd of cattle, each doing their job to achieve the task of moving that cattle forward.
Kind of want to segue into opportunities now because you guys are positioned in the industry and now opportunities come to you. You guys are in a niche area of the industry. Is there a way that you decide to say no to a specific job or project or even just an opportunity? Are you guys looking at relationship? How important is that when you're looking at projects?
His mentor kind of gave me the idea of this ELF acronym, which stands for easy, lucrative, and fun. We've since modified it to include I, which is ELFY for involved, because you can imagine there's work that can be both easy, lucrative, and fun, but it takes up all my time. And although it's lucrative in an individual basis, not lucrative for the overall company, so that kind of moderates that. But using that acronym of ELFY, we've been able to kind of decide where we want to go and where we want to kind of hold back from.
That's a good tip. Talk to me about the future. What does innovation look like in engineering space? And are you really paying attention to that now to kind of keep ahead of the industry?
Innovation is key. It's one of those things like leadership. You've got to look at it on a continuing basis. What is growing? What's changing? You want to get onto it at the right time. You don't want to get too early and you don't want to get too late. That's about systems, procedures, clientele, staffing. It's part of my everyday exercise to just know what's going on, what's changing, and how it affects me, my company.
I mean, in your role, I guess that's kind of vital, right? Not being so present, but also looking ahead. It's exactly like you said, staying lucrative. Any plans for you, for the business in the next 3 to 5 years? Is there something that you're looking to implement long term. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm a big advocate for organic growth. I think there's a natural way for things to flow. And when you go against the grain, it causes unnecessary hardship. So I tend to just kind of go with the way we're going. We've been growing organically. It's been wonderful. We're recently taking the steps to go from an Ontario based to a national based company. And it was more organic. We saw the need. We created relationships slowly in Ontario that created relationships across the country. And we're now capitalizing on them. And it's allowed us to grow. But again, it was all organic based. There was no, I want to be a national company. I want to be an international. I want to be a global company. It's more just opportunity came. We assessed it. And in this instance, joining national, we chose to hop on that concept.
Speaks towards keeping your head down and grinding, being good at your job, and really focusing in on what you guys do best, and great things come. So that's awesome to hear. I want you to give kind of an advice, if you can. If you could go back and give yourself that one bit of advice when you were starting, what would it be?
I think it comes back to you fail to recognize in this modern world the importance of culture. Certain things, I'm a big early riser, so I'll be up at 4 or 5 in the morning, get to work and do it. But I'll also try to get home relatively early to spend time with the family. And I think that played some cultural negativity in a sense where now we've got an office that come 4:35, there's very few people present, and that's affected how we look at things. So I think if I could go back, I'd have to figure out how to better contextualize that. Some days in early, some days in late, just to kind of give that overall perspective of seeing my presence. I'm a big advocate of lead by example and trying to just navigate how that plays out with while still keeping the work-life balance somewhat in mind.
That's great advice. Not even just to an entrepreneur, but to everybody, especially in Western culture. People do get lost in work that takes precedent over the more important things in life. That's a great piece of advice. I couldn't agree more. I have to remind myself that daily. Jeremy, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I would love to have you back, and I'm sure everybody else would love to have you back. I know we can dive a lot deeper into leadership or structures, so we can work something out later on in the future. I appreciate your time.